The Fantastic Four First Steps. Finally, we are getting the original Marvel's First Family introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If this isn't my most hyped movie of the year, I don't know what else is. This was directed by Matt Shakman, who brought you the WandaVision series all those years ago. It stars Pedro, Pascal, Vanessa, Kirby, Ebon, Moss-Bachrach, and Joseph Quinn. After years of speculating who was going to play Marvel's First Family, we got our answer. And Marvel's First Family lives in the 1960s futuristic version of Earth, and they face their most daunting challenge yet as they defend Earth from Gatiss and Silver Surfer. Now let me just put this into perspective as to why this movie is probably the most anticipated for me this year. It isn't necessarily because it's Marvel Studios, and some of you might still think I'm a massive fanboy. I'm still gonna approach this as objectively as I can, but let me just preface things by saying this. We have had 4 Fantastic Four movies, oddly enough, in the past. Every single one of them has sucked. The one from the 90s goes without saying, it's hot garbage. The 2 that came out in the mid-2000s, which had Michael Chiklis appearing as the Thing. Of course, you had Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. That was my first introduction to Chris Evans. I do have some nostalgia for those movies. But yeah, they're not very good. And of course, who could forget the disgrace that was Fant4stic? Oh, Fant4stic, that f***ing movie. So I can understand people feeling a little bit trepidatious, like, oh, we're dipping into this water well again. And I've been saying for the longest time, ever since Lord Feige mentioned this at the 2019 Hall H, you get Fantastic Four into the right hands, and you could have a classic. What was I telling you guys? Do not doubt this man. I know a lot of us might still be feeling the superhero fatigue, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't. Because First Steps is admittedly, it's the 3rd Marvel movie we've gotten in 2025, and we're just a little over halfway done with the year, while also getting a bevy of television shows at our fingertips. Comic book media has never been more accessible than it is right now. But you know what? I am so happy to report that I left this theater with a gigantic smile on my face. And I am still smiling, reveling in how right I was and how great this movie actually turned out. But what I wasn't expecting, this is not only a good Fantastic Four movie, it's not only a great Fantastic Four movie, excuse me when I say this, but First Steps is, for lack of a better term, fantastic. That's because this movie, and this is the same thing with Thunderbolts, which only came out a couple of months ago. This film feels so centralized. It feels like its own standalone story. And it's not even trying to really fit into the gigantic realm of the MCU. It doesn't feel like it, but by proxy it is. This is the first movie of Phase 6. But if you take all the Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff out of the equation, you can watch Fantastic Four First Steps on its own, and you could be like, God damn, that was a really, really good superhero movie. And the one thing that this film had to nail down more than anything else, the family dynamic, which is why it was so important to get the right people in the cast. And I know I threw out my theories for years and years and years as a YouTuber, ever since I started doing this. Never did I think that this cast would be as perfect as it turned out to be. Now, I know Pedro Pascal is f***ing everywhere now. This guy is probably one of the most recognizable men on the face of the planet. And the mad irony is that he really rose into the superstardom phase of his career with his face under a mask. And now he's moved from one popular Disney IP in Star Wars to the Marvel world, and he is a perfect Reed Richards, really. How he carries himself. He knows that he is probably the most intelligent character to ever step foot in this universe, and we've had a lot of geniuses in the MCU. Reed Richards is probably smarter than every single one of them. Granted, he's smart scientifically. Street smarts, not necessarily. This man can't really put together a baby crib to save his life. Making up the other half of the parental unit in this movie is Sue Storm, played by the impeccable Vanessa Kirby. And I've loved Vanessa Kirby for a really long time. This, in my opinion, is the definitive version of Sue Storm. Her, together with Pedro Pascal, comprise the heart and soul of this film. Their chemistry is just so damn sweet. And there were a couple of moments, especially towards the halfway point and as you're getting closer to the end, where there's some moments involving Vanessa Kirby that I dare not give away here, but they had me tearing up. And I was not expecting that out of this movie. Like, it really, really touched me. And I think that's what's going to hold this movie over something like, say, Superman. It's one of the many things that's going to hold it over Superman. It knows to balance the humor and the serious moments. And this movie has a bevy of serious moments, letting the audience breathe past all the jokes that you get. And man, it is just the family dynamic. I can't put that over enough. It is so damn perfect. But that's not to say that the comedy in this movie isn't good. I know a lot of people might listen to the lines in this and think, oh, it's just typical Marvel comedy. No! First Steps is really funny. And a lot of that comes from Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing, which I love the design of him. It very much feels like it's the original cartoon version of the Thing brought into motion capture. And I love this guy as Richie in The Bear, and I thought he was really, really great in this role as well. And you don't even necessarily see him as Ben Grimm except in archival footage. For 95% of the runtime that you see him on screen, he is the rock monster. And I think his motion capture work was really good. Oh man, and speaking of actors who are everywhere, let's talk about Joseph Quinn as the Human Torch. If this guy was not a heartthrob before then, he certainly will be. And he got a lot of great comedic highlights in this one. I mean, everybody in this cast, from the first family to our villains, Ralph Ineson as Galactus. Wow, what a great voice casting here. He is just the right level of calm, collected, and downright dominating and intimidating. And the look of this guy, even though you can tell that it's CGI, certainly, it definitely helps seeing this movie in IMAX to really get the full Galactus experience. But how the DP actually shows you Galactus, it reminds me a lot of how Gareth Edwards directs the Godzilla movies. Makes him feel freaking gigantic. And one element of this movie that was such a pleasant surprise was Julia Garner as the Silver Surfer. Again, not going to dig too deep into her backstory and why she is working with Galactus, but that was an emotional highlight, man. And it feels like this is a very comic booky feeling movie with the colors and the production design. The 1960s futuristic aesthetic looks really freaking great. And not to mention the one and only Michael Giacchino composing the music for this. Yeah, hearing that Fantastic Four anthem just blaring as the rocket ship is just careening through an asteroid field. Like, I get goosebumps thinking about it, guys. Oh my god, this movie! Like, I'm not even kidding you when I say this. This is, I think, one of the best pure MCU movies to come out in a really long time. I think this was a phenomenal introduction to Marvel's first family and actually putting them into the fold now. Everything feels right in the world. Like, the MCU was fantastic as it has been through the entire Infinity Saga and almost the entire Multiverse Saga. But now that we finally have Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, Human Torch, and the Thing at our disposal here, like, it just feels right. And it feels like a void has finally been cleared. And I gotta give props to Matt Shakman, who did a wonderful job directing this movie. And if rumors are to be believed, there's going to be sequels to this thing. There better be. This movie better make a lot of money. But if he signed on to direct the sequels, I am all for it. This guy knows these characters. Now, like I said, I don't want to compare this movie too much to other comic book movies that have come out recently, like, per se, Superman, which just came out a couple weeks ago. But my big problem with Superman, for those of you who remember, that film just kind of threw you into the action, and it kind of expected you to know everything there was to know about Superman. Fantastic Four First Steps, similarly to Superman, it's not an origin story. So I don't want you to go in expecting to see, oh, the Fantastic Four goes into space and the experiment goes awry and they come out with superpowers. They pretty much already have the superpowers, but the difference is this movie actually takes the time to actually kind of briefly explain the origins of all four of our leads. Like, I'm not even kidding you. The first 5 minutes is like a news clip, and it pretty much tells you the entire plot of Fantastic. It does more successfully in 5 minutes what Fantastic failed to do in 100. Like, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about the quality of this movie, I don't know what else does. I will mention, though, even though I f***ing loved this film, everything about it, the performances, the score, the direction, top-notch, across the board, awesome. I will admit that some of the CGI in this movie isn't exactly up to snuff for me, especially involving the CGI Franklin Richards in some sequences where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can tell they're not holding this baby. And we have to CGI these little moments in here with the baby to get what they want in the story. You can kind of see the manipulation in there. I will mention, though, I do kind of wish that Fantastic Four First Steps was a little bit longer. And I'm really reaching for nitpicks here. But if you really look at the crux of the family, everybody is well established. I do feel like there's a couple of little things, especially involving Ben Grimm's character, I feel like you could have digged a little bit deeper into. You know what Ben Grimm kind of makes me think of in this movie? Think back like 10, 11 years ago when Guardians of the Galaxy came out and how not as fleshed out Drax was in comparison to everybody else. I can kind of see a parallel here between Dave Bautista and Ebon Moss-Bachrach here. I think if you flesh that out just a little bit more, if you flesh out maybe Johnny Storm just a smidge more than you got. Again, I'm just looking for something to nitpick. This movie was an hour 55 minutes. It's a great pace for this movie. It's a great runtime. But I think with all of the little character stuff that they wanted to develop a little bit more, I mean, again, I feel like we're going to be getting sequels, so they could be digging deeper into that. But as a standalone, and as probably, arguably my most hyped movie going into 2025, Fantastic Four First Steps lived up to every single ounce of my hype. And it's living proof that you should never, ever doubt Marvel Studios again. Because no matter what, even though the multiverse saga has been a rocky road to get to this point, especially after Thunderbolts, this is a second hit in a row. I'm going to give Fantastic Four First Steps an A. If you do not see this on the biggest screen possible, you are doing yourself a disservice. Especially considering that the comic book fan base has been dying for a truly great Fantastic Four movie. And in my opinion, we finally fucking got it. It's clobbering time. Let me know what you thought of the Fantastic Four First Steps down in the comments section. Are you excited to see the future of the MCU? Which I should mention, there are 2 post-credit sequences per the Marvel tradition. The mid-credit sequence is probably the more important of the 2. Just because it links directly to one of the bigger Marvel projects that you're getting next year. Not going to outright say what it is, but I'll just leave it at that. But guys, hit that subscribe button if you're new and hit that thumbs up as well. That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much again for your fantastic continued support of this content. I love getting in front of this camera, talking all things movies, not just Marvel, everything. Seriously, this makes me feel so alive, guys. So thank you so much again for your continued support. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.